This is Chrome DevTools, an animated 5-minute journey. And the obligatory About Me slide. My name is Umar. I do front-end web development at Shazam, along with a few others here. And I'm a contributor to the DevTools documentation, and also the code base, but more so the documentation. And if you search for my name, you'll find a few tutorials online about the Chrome DevTools and a few other like HTML5 buzzwordy type things. This talk will be a few tips on a few panels. It's not going to be like some inspirational philosophical talk like we've gotten a few of already. It will be just an instructional slide deck, essentially. We'll get started. Elements. This is a quite unknown feature, but maybe if any of you follow me, you might know this already. It's the ability to search by a CSS selector. You can do regular text-based searching in the Elements panel, but in addition to that, you can actually type in a selector, and it will evaluate that and show you the nodes that match that selector. The Eyedropper tool, or I should say it's a color picker tool with an eyedropper component. This is the ability to click on a color keyword or a hexadecimal value in the styles pane. You then get this little color popover, and you can sort of drag around, and DevTools will update the color that you've picked. And in fact, Canary is getting a really nice UI upgrade when it comes to this, so you should check that out. Network panel. I think we've all got this Kanye West inside of us, not the person, but this confused face, and it comes out when you least expect it. And in particular, I want to bring your attention to looking at resources in the network panel and not understanding, and also having that Kanye West face, not understanding where they came from. To solve that, the DevTools bought what's called the initiator column. And the initiator column will give you the call stack of how that resource came to be. So if you're using AMD or require.js, it will be like, this function was called, then that function was called, and in turn, this resource was requested. Most times, it will be really obvious to you. It will be a script tag or a link tag. But sometimes, it's a bit more nested. Sources panel. I guess this isn't a majorly used panel in the DevTools if you haven't incorporated it into your workflow. But just to highlight one thing, it's got multi-cursor support. And I don't want you to pay attention to that too much, but rather the fact that the sources panel is updated quite regularly, and it brings a lot of features which you'll find present in Sublime Text, for example. So it's definitely worth a try and seeing if you can incorporate it into your workflow. I guess many of you here do maintain software on GitHub, and let's talk about when things go wrong. When something does go wrong, I guess me, along with many of you guys, will go to that GitHub ticket and complain and say, this thing is broken. Small tip, if this is, assuming it's web-based software, you can set a breakpoint, and you can say, hey, DevTools, if an uncaught exception occurs, so you don't have to write any code, you just toggle a little checkbox at the top, I want you to pause. When it pauses, you can actually right-click on the stack trace, say copy, and then paste that into the GitHub ticket. It might not make a difference to the maintainer, but you never know. Console panel, super small one, but if you're logging out an element through console.log or whatever, that will get syntax highlighted. You can right-click and say reveal in elements panel. Monitor events. I'm constantly forgetting the event object that is passed to the callback of various events, like a click. And sometimes I'll do MDN click event or something like that on Google. But you can use this monitor event shortcut. You pass the object and the event name that you want to listen to, so window click. And monitor events is part of what's called the command line API, which exposes a few kind of helpful utilities that you might want to use in the console panel. And in this case, when I start clicking, it logs those automatically. So it's more of a convenience feature. Mobile. I know this has been said, and I guess none of you need convincing about this, but mobile is a thing, and we're all in an environment where the speed of the internet is not amazing. So don't leave your users looking like this pirate guy staring into the abyss of a web page, and go to DevTools, turn on throttling. I used to do this with Charles Proxy, but it's available there. It's not operating system wide, but rather browser specific. And a few experimental features in my last minute. This is Canary only. Keep in mind things may break. This is web page test kind of embedded in the network panel. You can start a new recording, and it will give you these screenshots of how your web page painted. And you can be like, so when that resource finished downloading, then I got my first paint. So this is quite powerful. I really like this one. This is easing previews, the ability to preview and ease and see how an element changes over time. You just click on the easing type in the styles pane. And finally, following on from that, we've got animation, this new animation pane. So there's CSS3 animations on the left in a web page, and on the right, DevTools has now separated that property by property, showing me how each animatable property changes over time. I can resize the handlers and do all sorts of fancy stuff. And when I change that, it will also affect the values themselves. And I'm almost done. This is the part where I pressurize you into whatever, liking my video, or what is it? Back me on Kickstarter. No, I'm kidding. I don't have a Kickstarter. But I do have a mailing list. So if you like those tips, you can go and subscribe. And if you don't want to subscribe, because that's too intrusive maybe, you can just follow me on Twitter. And now for the clip we've all been waiting for. It's this dog with hands. Thank you.